Good morning, Borough President.
Good morning, Roberto. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. Let's lean right in, Borough President Reynoso. What are your thoughts um, on Mayor Adams and the recent developments and the mayoral race as a whole? And what do you think the implications are of a potential, not the pardon, but the charges being dropped and or removed, and the mayor's current relationship and or alleged cozying up to President Trump? What are your thoughts?
Look, we're in a different time in politics right now, Roberto. In my entire time that I've been involved, it's been almost 20 years that I've been doing this work. Some as a staff member, some as an organizer, some as an elected official, and I've never seen a time like this. It's a time when you know, decorum or the standard minimums that we expect from elected officials just don't exist anymore. There were things in my time that you would never do, you would never say. You had to comport yourself a certain way, and it just didn't. It just doesn't exist anymore. So I want to say that we're in a different time. So I want to judge this through time and less through character, because I think it's a different time, and that is allowed now. So people behave differently, and it's accepted now to a certain degree. I would say that, look, I had asked the mayor to resign early on when I found a lot of what was happening to be a problem. But it's just that I didn't feel that the mayor could do his job full time and be fully dedicated to the city of New York when he had a federal trial that was pending. That's a serious deal. This is not a story is going to come out in a big publication. This is your life. So I just thought he should do that. And then kind of what I expected to happen happened. There are moments when I think it's been pretty objectively clear that the mayor has done things to protect himself or things that look like they are of self-interest against the interests of the city. And he's done so by not criticizing Trump when he has done things that are not good for the city, or not criticizing him when he's done things that are just not right, on a character level. And I'm not a big fan of it, and I still think he should resign. Look, I think that his political future is going to be very difficult. I think the city of New York knows who he is now more than ever. It's a person that won with 7,000 votes, and I think it's going to be a different reality. But it's hard to beat an incumbent.
Can a
So we'll see what the future holds.
can a progressive be mayor? Look at all the polling, Borough President, and it's pointing more towards Cuomo, um, Adams,
Yeah,
Stringer, or anyone who is sort of playing more to the middle than to the left. And I only say that the terms that were popular from a couple of years ago, from "I don't take money from real estate" to "I'm a defund person," have now become bad words. Do you
yeah,
think the left can put it together, knowing that the history the last time around is sort of like with Diana Morales and Maya Wiley?
yeah,
It's sort of there was a cannibalism.
yeah,
People just cannibalize each other on the left. Can a
yeah.
progressive win?
Absolutely. And I think that I want to just say that the people you're naming are just people that have higher name recognition. A lot of people haven't had the opportunity to really put their name out there in a meaningful way. You're talking about Scott Stringer ran a full campaign for mayor just a couple of years ago, and he spent millions of dollars to get his name out there. He was a city elected official, a citywide elected official for a long time. Governor Cuomo was, contending as one of the leading national figures in the Democratic Party. So people know his name. Eric Adams is the sitting mayor of the greatest city in the world. That's a name recognition conversation, I think, more than it is that people are like moving to the center. Eric Adams is the center, and you look at all the polling, and there's a full rebuke of his work so far to on a political level. I want Latinos, Roberto. Latinos help carry the mayor to office, and if you look at the polling now, the same polling that is saying that Cuomo and him and Stringer or whoever it is up there are saying that they've completely abandoned him. So if we're going to hold that true, and he won by 7,000 votes last time, and it seems like his coalition is getting smaller, then is that what people are asking for? And I want to say this. I think that what people are really asking for is for people to find solutions to their problems. They don't care if you're a progressive, if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat. They're just looking for people to find solutions. And I'm going to say this here first, Roberto, is
Hmm.
that what happened is during Mayor de Blasio's time, we were in a time of great opportunity. Mayor de Blasio did things that in 10 years people are going to look back on and think about the value added to this city. Pre-K and 3K were examples of us addressing the affordability crisis before it became a hot button topic for elections. We were already doing that, getting people opportunities 2 years before they usually re-enter the workforce for working mothers, and just giving people reprieve. When you talk about housing, the MIH that was put forth by the de Blasio administration
NZQA,
created
NZQA.
these creation of the most affordable, non-subsidized affordable housing put forth by the city of New York. Fair fares, reducing the fare of the transit system for people that are poor, like addressing affordability issues in a real way before this idea of livability and affordability got cool, which is happening in the last couple of years. We were doing that, and what happened? COVID comes forth, so now we have COVID, and Eric Adams spends millions of dollars telling people that we're the most dangerous city in the world, that everything is scary, that we got to be fearful. So people move from these opportunity based policies to this enforcement and policing based policies. And when you do that, you remove opportunity, you remove affordability, you remove those positive aspects that were being presented to people, and only talk about enforcement and have police solve for your issues. This is what you get. What the city feels like right now is exactly what people are feeling. And I think if we present people with simple solutions to the problems they see and don't tell them that what they see is not real, that people will go with the candidate that they believe the most. And that can be a progressive.
Bro, President, let's talk about something that's near and dear to your heart, and something you and I worked on a couple of years back, Nuestros Niños, which is
Yes.
the early learn or pre-K
Yeah.
nursery that you attended as a child. What's the latest development on that? And there is a historic problem, not just specific to Mayor Adams, so that we can't put the sole onus on him. Let's call it like it is. There's been an issue with payments to nonprofits for a long time, right? With that said, what is the latest development on saving Nuestros Niños?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they were fell victim to the lack of payment, and they just couldn't operate. And now they a lot of these programs rely on bridge loans. What's the latest development there?
Yeah, this is an example of the city failing people, and it's why people are upset and why folks just can't deal with government anymore. Like the mayor had told me in a one-on-one conversation that there are three issues that they want to solve for when it comes to these closures. It's enrollment for all of these daycare centers, the cost of operation or the increase in the new leases, because that's what the conversation is about. These are all sites in which the leases are now up, and the mayor doesn't want to renew them if he doesn't think there's value to them. So it's what is the extent of the increases being requested by landlords? What is the attendance? And then saturation. Do we have 20 daycare centers in one neighborhood where there's only 20 children, for example, and we can't have these $1 million sensors operating for one child and so forth? So I understand those three parameters, and I think that they're fair. For the most part, they're fair. We got to be smart about how we spend our money. Nuestros Niños doesn't fall into any of those categories. It has an 82% enrollment, and the enrollment issue that we have is that ACS and DOE have different numbers, and there's a miscommunication. But the mayor thought there were only 4 kids in that school, and there's almost 100 of them in that school. It's a one discrepancy that they know is to be true, that they refuse to move on. The second thing is that this landlord is asking for a 10% increase, initially asking for a 10% increase on rent. Maybe the city can go in there and negotiate 8% or a lower amount, but it's a 10-year lease, which ends up being profitable long term when you really look at it. And it secures this spot. It's a $1 million rent. It'll go up to $1.1 million for the next 10 years. It locks it in. So The rent here is not an exorbitant. He's not increasing it by 50%, by 30%. We're talking about less than 10%. And then saturation. There isn't a daycare center located in this area for maybe 10 to 12 blocks. So we talk about a need within a local community, it doesn't exist. So Roberto, we're talking about three things that they said they want to solve for. This doesn't fall into any of those categories. It has no characteristics of why they should shut it down. So at this point, you ask yourself, why do they continue to do it? And it's bad government. And that's exactly what people are upset about. You can't logically sit there and explain to these parents exactly why these centers are closing. And people get upset because they want to know the why. And outside of you just not wanting to do it or having no political will, there's no real justification for why this center specifically should close.
Or President, you have a race, and I want to frame this question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I was just telling my previous guest that coming to America, you know the scene where Eddie Murphy says he wants to live poor?
Yes,
You know
yes.
where that building is, right?
Yeah, it's on my block. I live on the same block in that
Thank you.
building.
That's where I'm
Yeah.
going. I remember once upon a time bringing the proclamation and or citation from the former mayor to a sort of mural unveiling in Domino Park. The late
Yeah,
Luis Garnacosta
yeah, yeah.
commissioned that mural. And I literally went back a couple of years later and I had no clue where I was because the Domino Park was totally, it just hadn't been built out yet.
Yeah, yeah,
The reason I mentioned that is you are from the south side of Williamsburg. There was a time where the Dominican population, one was Washington Heights, two was Corona, three was the south side of Williamsburg. You
yeah,
are as
yeah,
Brooklyn as they come, child of immigrants. You came up by the bootstraps, like
yeah.
myself, public assistance, the whole nine yards,
Mm-hmm.
and you never left. What
Nope.
do you say now that you have a Democratic opponent that you represent New Brooklyn and you do not represent traditional Brooklyn, where Los Sures was Los Sures, Bedford Stuyvesant was Bedford Stuyvesant, and you are representative of the gentrification changes and or transplants that are driving impractical policies that don't play to the poor and the working class? Because I know that's one of the areas where people attack you on, and I want
Mhm.
you as a representative of what is it the fourth largest Democratic county in the country?
Yes.
To
I would argue
speak to
third or
that
fifth,
and push
depending on the year.
and push back. What is your argument to people that make that claim that you no longer speak to traditional Brooklyn and the people that know a city of lawlessness, crime, and abject poverty?
Yeah. Look, I think I had a conversation recently with a friend. It's a timing issue, right? Really think about what I did in Brooklyn when I got elected to Brooklyn Borough President. For all intents and purposes, Brooklyn Borough Hall was an extension of a central Brooklyn senatorial district that was originally run by Marty Markowitz, who then became borough president, and then was the senatorial district of Eric Adams, who then became borough president. So people in central Brooklyn have always had a very intimate relationship with Borough Hall, and their leaders. And those leaders knew central Brooklyn very well. And my opponent comes from central Brooklyn. And what happened with me is that I'm an anomaly to them. I'm something that they didn't expect. They can't comprehend. It's like, how does a Latino, right? So I'm not playing identity politics, but how does a Latino get elected in a borough that, by all intents and purposes, is majority black and white? Is black and white, not all intents, but is black and white, but where the political power traditionally lied in central Brooklyn. And what's happening here is that they need to build a narrative to explain their loss, right? Like, they need to explain why is that the case. And what they do is they want to paint me as the person that's looking out for the interest of the people that have, looking out for the interest of gentrifiers or newcomers coming into the borough, and not a person of the people. And it's just if you say something long enough, it starts becoming true. And it's just I think and not all of them. It's a very specific group of people that have lost significant power and has lost significant influence. They're looking a way to characterize me in doing that. Remember, you just talked about taking money from developers is no longer cool. Well, I've been doing that since I first got elected as a council member in 2013. Before it was a thing, I was doing it, and I don't look out for the interest of developers. But I'm pro development. I think growing is good. I'm just not going to do it for the interest of the developers. I'm doing it for the interest of the people, where I think it's appropriate. And if you look at everything I've done, maternal health work I've done in Central Brooklyn, to look out for the interests of Black women when it comes to maternal death rates. We've saved centers in Crown Heights, in Bed-Stuy. We've got the largest investment for parks in the history of the borough president's office. You know, like, we got all these things that we're doing in these areas that they would consider, you know, areas of need of non-gentrification or non-gentrifying. But they need to build the narrative. They need to try to win, and that's how they're going to do it. And it's unfortunate because it's not true. But two, the election is going to reaffirm that. This election is going to show that it's a timing issue, that their time is up, and these younger politicians with ideas that can execute are the people that they want to see in office.
Borough President, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Anything you want to add or mention that I forgot to ask you in the parting words?
Yeah, I want to talk about New York City exceptionalism. You know, I think that we're in a time when people think that the cool thing to do right now, Roberto, is to bash New York. And I'm not talking about people from other states. I'm talking about people from right here. Everybody that wants to bash New York, or, you know, their experience is so terrible, and New York is just falling apart. And New York is undefeated. We can't be torn down. We can't be taken down. You know, there might be some wobbling that happens every once in a while, but for the most part, we are the champ. New York City is the greatest city in the world. And I want to do two things. First, reaffirm to the people that don't believe that keep it up, because we are the greatest city in the world, and we're doing great, and we are thriving. And to the haters and the people that just can't stand New York, like, that's not gonna fly long. That is a fad, that you can spend all your time bashing New York and trying to blame the elected officials for the state of New York. That's gonna get old very quickly. People are looking for leaders that love this city and that want to improve upon it. And I'm excited about being one of those people. So more power to New York, and in the great words of the greatest poets who ever graced the great lands of Brooklyn, his name is Christopher Wallace, the Notorious B.I.G. Spread love is the Brooklyn way.
I got one other Brooklynite that I'm a big fan of.
Go ahead.
And he's a pioneer. People don't mention him as much. The late, great Jackie Gleason. And he used to say, how sweet it is.
There you go. You're
How
doing good.
sweet
You're
it
doing
is.
good, Roberto. And I'm proud of you, brother. Keep it up.
All
Keep
right.
it up. And I just want to say one thing. I do want to clear for maybe in the end here, just a clarification. I actually think Scott Stringer is a progressive. And I know you lumped them into like the centrist group of like Cuomo and Eric Adams. It's not the case. I think actually Stringer's to the left of both of them. Is a practical progressive, which I think can resonate with people. So just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you for the clarification. All the best and continued success to you, Borough President. I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully this won't be the last time, man. All the best. I've seen you grow in terms of your career and your political progress, and I'm proud of you. And again, continued success and all the best to you and your family, my brother. All the best.
Thank you,
Talk
my
soon,
brother.
man. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Se me cuida. Bye.
Bye-bye.